All right. So, Mike, again,
Thank you.
you are our first victim.
Thank you. I had a stupid thing come up the other day where I noticed the splash page on a site had something wrong on it. And I thought, well, I'll just fix it. And I look up at the URL and it's got a hash there, a pound sign, right? So I don't know the name of the page. And it took me a long time to find the page I was looking for, which was actually called something stupid like start page, right? But it was not obvious how to find it in the links. And I finally got out the menu and ran through the menu, and it didn't make any sense to me at all. Finally, I stumbled on it and I solved the problem. So I can fix it now. But then after I did that, I thought, well, I'll just do an update. And I go up to my top menu and, flush cache isn't there. And I can't find it. I'm already kind of annoyed and in a hurry and things on my mind. So finally, after much fumbling around, I realized that my service provider, my hosting, has changed the menu. So this shows me that the menu in the admin page can be changed, right? And it also showed me that they're not sorted. There's under no logical sort. There doesn't seem to be any AI in there.
You're talking about the navigation menu on your
Yes.
site.
Not on my site. This on the admin site, the admin page for WordPress. So you go to something.
You're saying that you believe that your host modified your admin page menu, and for example, in specific terms, what was missing or added?
Well, it turned out that flushing the cache was in a different place, right? And in the menu for pages, there didn't appear to be a button that said find the start page, right? And when I looked in my menu, I couldn't find the page that was called pound sign, right? That didn't find it either. So I had no way of doing it until I finally stumbled through and started doing searches for keywords. So I finally
wait a second. You know that the hashtag in a URL, if it's at the end, just is a self-referencing URL.
Yes.
There's nothing more to the hashtag than that. Just
and it refers to index.htm or something, right?
No. If it's at the end of the domain name itself /pound or /hashtag, then that is the start page, the home page.
Yes, it is. It is. Right. I can see it, but I can't find it from the admin page for WordPress.
You mean in the pages?
Yes, in the pages view. Yeah. So finally, I did find it, and I put some notes in it so I could do a search.
So what was the title? What was the title of the page?
Oh, I don't know. That's the problem. It was a page that had been something else, and like a new start page or something. But it wasn't start page. It was just a name, and then somebody had come along later on and made it the start page by filling a box, and it became the start page. But
that wasn't you or anybody it was the
previous programmer. So that got me thinking that given that other people are changing that panel, right? Why can't people like us go into that panel and change it? Or
your terminology. Wait a second. You got to be more careful with your terminology.
Yeah.
There are many panels on the main admin page, aka the dashboard. Right?
Yes, the dashboard. Yeah.
And if you're referring to, can you customize the admin page?
Yes.
Its menus, the modules that show, the notification things, the what do you call it, nag stuff, and so on. The answer's resoundingly yes in capital letters. There's one relatively expensive plugin. I'm trying to remember, it's admin something or other. And it has about 50 or 60 different settings or at least ways in which you can modify that page. I've used other programs, and to a lesser extent, the free version of that admin something or other. I've used them to do things like add and subtract columns to the page and or post page. For example, you want the template listed on the pages. For each entry in the pages list, you want the template that page uses, add the column, you know, blah, blah, blah. So that's one of the sorts of things you can do. And then color changes and column widths and all the rest of it are pretty standard stuff. So in other words, there's a lot of things you can do, but I must say, I find it somewhat hard to believe that a host would care in the slightest about the name of the homepage unless somebody who's responsible for the site asked them to do something, and rather than tell that person, they did it directly and made it quicker.
Yeah.
Robin,
I think what's
Hang on.
happening, yeah, I think what's happening here is the two issues. The issue with the cache button at the top of the admin bar, that is controlled by your cache plugin, and your cache plugin may or may not be provided by your host. Some hosts provide their own cache plugins, others don't. So if your cache plugin was updated, that button may have moved or changed or been switched off, or who knows. But that's probably a result of an update to your cache plugin. As for finding the home page, there are a couple of ways to do it. One is to look down your list of pages, and you'll see one which is with a notation on it that says home page. And the other way is to go into your admin options, on your dashboard, and it is under
settings reading.
Yeah, settings reading. Yeah, and it'll show what the home page is.
an example of one of the things I stumbled across, I was needing to do some searches, and I managed to get a listing of the total URL of every page that's currently live. I'm not entirely sure how I did this, but I ended up on a Google sheet having a listing of every page on a site. And on the Google page, every one of those links was live. So I could be sitting in a browser, and if I clicked on a cell, it would open up that page on the website, which meant that I didn't have to go through the admin screen to find something. And then I could compare two versions of a page or something without using WordPress. And I found I was getting much more work done avoiding the WordPress control system than I was using it. For example, I see a page, I can just suck the whole page into a document and then do a bulk edit or a search and then fix it up and then copy what I need back later on using WordPress. But to actually load the page through WordPress is painful. It just takes way too long to get a page open in WordPress.
Does anybody disagree with the notion that for example, pages and posts pages in their layout are just plain suck? They are poorly designed, haven't been updated in, well, I don't remember them being updated ever. And as a result, if you have, say, 200 pages, it's really tedious going through them. And you would think that with the emphasis in Gutenberg on the UI improvements, they would move the priority up on the admin, the dashboard stuff. And they have said that that's a priority, and they recognize its inability to deliver the experience that everybody's desires, and compared to the competitors, pretty poor. But you can customize, and part of that customization is to use alternate tools. For example, you've got your spreadsheet there. You could put the spreadsheet on a page, right, and not even leave the WordPress site, and get automatic updates from Google to that spreadsheet. I mean, it can be a dynamic spreadsheet. I mean, Google supports that. And that way, if you create a new page, if you have a mechanism for the Google spreadsheet to know about it, then it can put it in the spreadsheet and then update the spreadsheet on the site's page.
Yeah,
but I guess I think the conclusion I come to, and Drew, do you disagree that this doesn't seem like something the host would do?
No. It's nothing that I'm really concerned about the hosting. It was just very annoying that I couldn't do this. One thing that with MailChimp, they give you some microcode really you paste into your site, And then every time you release something on MailChimp, you say, move it to this directory, and it updates your WordPress site. So my WordPress site has a listing of all my MailChimp mailings that is self-updating with the one checkbox.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, that's
and-
very handy.
Yeah, so it's like, how do I do something like that so I can access my menu just, just by going, oh, these are the menu commands I've used, and these are my notes about them, like this.
Presumably, there are developers who are experienced in customizing the admin pages, and they should be able to build practically anything you could want, because, I mean, it's just more programming within the context of the application. So it's not in and of itself inherently difficult. I'm sort of surprised that nobody really talks about it much. There are a few articles on dealing with the admin pages and their shortcomings, but there may be I may have found 3 or 4 over 10 years, compared to 300 to 400 on some other more interesting topic to more people with respect to the UI.
What do you consider to be the biggest shortcoming?
Well, the whole sort of design scheme behind it sucks. I mean, the readability is poor to begin with. All of it's readability is low. The layout of the pages reflects nothing of the use people make. Things like quick searches where you can enter a part of a name and come up with a file only work with the initial characters.
Yeah.
So just their search functionality for sites is about the same as what's available on the main pages, and it's not. There's no quality about the search. It's just something tacked on there because you got to have something called search.
I've been exploring
I'm not sure
that.
why it is like
I'm a
that,
developer.
but, I'm sorry.
I've been exploring that and developing along those lines.
Well,
I mean,
imagine if you had an admin UI for beginners, a more complex one for people who were underway and had some idea of what they're doing, that had some drag and drop capabilities for them to rearrange things somewhat, all of which is supported by WordPress right now. And then an advanced version, which has the features and capabilities of that admin plugin that I mentioned, which is by far the most popular. And I'll dig out the
is it admin columns you're talking about?
Well, there's one that does columns primarily. That's there are a fair number of specialized admin UI tools, but the one that I'm referring to is one of those omnibus suites that tries to do everything. And so therefore, if you really want to do extensive customization, particularly to the sidebar menus, then a tool like that does a better job than a one-shot tool.
So may I offer my take on it?
Sure, please do.
So, hey, I'm Dave, everybody, first time caller. The answer, I think, is not as much in customizing a navigation menu as to providing flexible, fuzzy search. So if you're looking for a page, you should be able to enter a search input that's within arm's length and type some characters that are in the title or the content of that page and have a look-ahead search before you even hit a go button. Drop down some stuff. There's a plugin called Turbo Admin by a gentleman named Ross Wintle, who does that for top-level admin menus, and I've used it. I discovered it because I was building at the same time, and then some other developer that I knew said, "Oh, that already exists." That old trope. So you really want to be able to search as if you were searching Google or searching through Basecamp or some kind of look-ahead search that's really fast through your entire pile of assets, whether they're post pages, custom post types, media, whatever. Search wasn't historically done like this. And like these kind of elastic search technologies that just look at your query string and then try to match it up with what they think you wanted are like coming along slowly but surely, but they're not really there. But there is a way to do it. And and
I guess at some point, probably fairly soon, within the next couple of years.
Well, I could show what I built.
The generative AI capabilities will be at the point where if you let the bot go through your site, then you can ask questions, find things, and so on, all in the manner that you're talking about, with a great deal of open-endedness to it. And
Yeah, the REST API, if you're familiar, like
yeah.
can essentially collect all assets, all
Sure,
posts that you need
sure.
into a big like JavaScript object, just a big array or a big collection of things. And then you could levy a search against the text content of that big pile.
Right.
I built a search engine that does this. There's a product called Algolia. If you're familiar, it's like you might see it in like the documentation for some primo like front end things like React or Tailwind or something. And so
Right.
you go to tailwindcss.com and search for something, you will type in something and then it'll immediately just like show you what matches close to that or exactly to that out of the vast expanse of the docs.
Right.
So WordPress needs that too. I didn't finish building it, but it's possible to do it. I built a prototype of a plugin called Post Collector that does this, just like builds a huge wad of stuff. It loads once, it's cached, and then whenever you add a page, it just updates that wad or that
Right.
haystack, I guess is a better analogy.
Right.
And then you can search for stuff through that. As far as like finding out what page you're looking at, I think a lot of themes put the ID of the page in the body element. So if you're ever like wondering what page you're on or page you're looking at, see if you look at the body element, it might have a class on it that says page-id-the ID.
Right.
And then you can go back into the admin and you can look for that ID, or you can like, and so
Yeah.
you could just do page like that old permalink structure. That's the default one.
Yeah, Dave, I did use other methods to get the information I needed. My goal on Saturday morning was to learn more about WordPress admin, not to go out of WordPress and use some other tool that I'd already used.
Indeed.
One thing that does annoy me, and maybe you got a quick answer, I enabled, I think it was a Google search on the website. And I imagine, like everyone, I've got about 50% dark matter on my site that I don't want to see the light of day. And Google search made it all public. So I wasn't able to restrict Google search to the pages that are on my menu structure that are public. And instead, all of the stuff I didn't want public was on the search.
Did you use the robots protocol?
I have no idea. It was a widget or something, and it said search your site, and it put this button on it, and a little box pops up, and you put down 2021 Christmas party, right? And it'll find that, but it finds all the pictures from the party that you never published, because it finds that subdirectory that's got all your pictures in it, and all the embarrassing pictures you didn't want to publish are now being found. Right, that's a trivial
block
example.
any page in the settings from Google search.
Yeah, there's usually a no index checkbox on most.
Yeah, but that's where the whole site. I think Mike wants to be selective, right?
Yeah, you
I
do
would
it
like
per
to
page.
search my menu structure and not, or
Sorry, guys. Is the point that you're making is that you can select pages which Google will not index, or is it a yes or no to all pages?
I believe Google did things like finding images.
No, I've got a specific question here.
Well, that's how do I filter?
Hang on, does anybody know whether the setting which excludes Google from indexing is for either for the whole site or or not? In other words, it's binary. You can't select the pages or posts that you don't want to be indexed. Does anybody know which it is?
It's the latter. You can select certain things not to be indexed and other things to be indexed. That would be.
And this is from the setting in WordPress.
I don't think it's in WordPress. I think it's probably something you'd find in like an SEO plugin.
Right, but I think also htaccess, the server, Apache server file would be able to do. That's what I thought right off the bat, because that's where you can turn off indexing completely.
Yeah, both are possible. I mean, indexing completely is turned off in
I think
discourage search engines from.
Wouldn't plugins simply work with that htaccess file and put directives in it?
I don't really know how they do it. I think it might have some.
Because
there
ones
might be
on
information
301
being
directs,
sent.
for instance, redirects are just simply a front end, a GUI for the server directives for that, the application instance that's running. And it's been quite some time since I've dealt with HD access, but my understanding is that when plugins do that sort of thing, then they're working as a GUI to that mechanism, but there may be other ones as well. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not
Type of
sure. I know that
stuff.
some hosts don't even have an HD access file anymore, like WPTO.
This kind of
Well,
stuff you
yeah.
want to put in your robots TXT because it's basically what Google will look at that in order to index everything. So you can tell whatever bot that's crawling your site to index this or index that. So that's usually where I go in order to do that stuff.
All right. So that allows files to be listed, right,
Yeah, like you can,
as excluded.
yeah, you basically say this bot, the Google bot, and you say the next line down there. If you Google robot TXT,
Right.
they'll show you the format, but basically it will break down the bot and then you can tell it, don't index these pages.
Now, one question, I guess, is if somebody happens to have a URL for a page, which is, but I guess whether a page is indexed or not doesn't impact whether it's public or not, right?
Exactly.
So you could have a public page that Google doesn't index, and so therefore someone could come to your site, so to speak, with that URL. Well, then the published page would display, right?
Yeah, like I have.
It's
I'm
only Google, in
managing-
other words, that's being limited.
Yeah, I'm managing a site right now for a union, and
Right.
they want certain things to be public for their people. So we're kind of hiding a bunch of sites from Google. So the URL is public, but we've asked Google not to index it.
Do you know how to like? Let's say that those Christmas party photos got out and you didn't no index the page, and you want to do it kind of retroactively, or you want to tell Google, hold up, please don't. So you set the no index, but it's already indexed in Google. Is there a way to like refresh that? I always wonder,
Yeah,
like, how do you
like-
tell Google that because I have a website, for example, a client website that had a bunch of sub pages, and we launched a whole new design on a new platform, but Google is still indexing those old URLs. Do you know how to like, how do you
I don't
flush that? Is
remember-
that,
I
is that
don't
a
remember-
Google
I
Search Console thing?
You got to do two things. First, add the no index tag to the current pages that you don't want indexed, or put them in your robots.txt file.
Mhm.
Then go into Google Search Console
Got it.
and delete the indexed pages that you want.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah,
I
that's
need to
what
do that.
exactly what you have to do.
Okay.
You have to ask to get it removed. That is the fastest way. The other ways
Do you need
are
a
slower.
Do you need a sitemap? Doesn't Google need your site to have a sitemap, or should it already be there?
That's included by default in WordPress now.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So you don't need a plugin for that because.
No, you don't need to plug it anymore.
So how?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, because how would I? You're saying it's already included in WordPress.
Yep.
How
Yeah.
would I find it on my site, for example?
Oh,
It
let's see.
should, as far as I understand, it should be your domain, then sitemap. It's either
Just domain and slash
it-
sitemap.
/sitemap, and I don't know. Sometimes it's
I'll look in-
HTML, sometimes it's XML.
So that you're okay. So I wouldn't need I should not need a plugin for that.
I'm not sure. I mean, does anybody know specifically that if you
I'm
don't have
not
a
being-
map,
I'm
the
being
site
that-
won't be indexed? Because that's not my experience. I think it potentially could have some slowing down of the first indexing or something, but I think in your search console, you tell Google, I'm ready to be indexed now, and then indexing occurs.
Cyber online me speaking.
Sorry? Did someone want to say something? Anyway,
Moving
that
on.
was the point that I was going to make.
Yeah.
On to you.
I'm in the same dilemma. I've got like another page that has been totally updated with a new one. It's actually it's
Okay.
contact page for the
If you've had them for over 2 years, I would imagine the warranty is, where are you located?
Mm,
Okay, so I am customer service for the online store. So there's not much I can do other than I can suggest I could give you another number to call. But if the shoes are over 2 years, then we usually
Are we-
don't carry the warranty.
I think
Yes.
we're off topic here somehow.
I think we might be on. He's on the
Okay, have a
phone.
good day.
yeah, I don't think he can know if we can hear him.
Mute
Okay,
yourself.
hang on. I'll mute him.
Mute
Go ahead.
button is available. Okay.
Yeah, he's muted.
It's like shoes.
That was weird.
You can use Google Search Console. There's a plugin which is free, and you can
Yeah.
identify which URL you don't want it to index.
Okay.
That's
Okay,
a-
yeah.
Does anybody have an answer to the question? Is a sitemap a requirement for Google to index a site?
No, it isn't.
No.
Yes,
No.
that was my understanding.
Okay. No,
It is an aid. It is an aid and useful to the odd person visiting your site. But
okay.
its functionality is no longer what it once. It doesn't fill the need it once did many years ago.
Because the SEO plugin used on the site I'm working on is a host, and that's what they say, that if you want to de-index if you even want Google to like take a basically delete a page and replace it with a new one, or just stop it from showing up when you in the Google search, is it to have a sitemap for. So I'm just wondering, like, but if you're saying
No sitemap indexes everything. Just throw, let the
So-
spiders go after.
I mean,
and a
why
sitemap
not?
allows you to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
why not put a sitemap in? I mean, if
Yeah,
Yoast
just
thinks it's a good idea, go ahead.
yeah, this is what they're saying to how to do it,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
Okay, I'll look into
Yeah,
it.
that's clutch.
It can't help. It can't hurt, rather.
Yeah, better to have it maybe on the safe side.
You do need to keep it up to date. And does the built-in version, Drew, that automatically updates itself?
No, sorry.
Oh, okay. I'm seeing what I'm working on a test site here, and I'm just running some tests on my own site.
Basically, think of a sitemap as a suggestion to Google what you want indexed,
Yeah,
and they take it into account.
it makes it.
They-
I guess, makes
They'll
it,
index more because they follow absolutely every link that is on your site.
okay.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts or questions on that particular topic? All right. Next person. True.
Somebody, Mike Noder had his hand up for a while, a few minutes ago.
Yes, you're right. He did, but
Well, I was following up on Mike's question originally. And the point I was trying to make, it's highly unusual that a hosting would come in and change the name of a page. So my first question was going to be, is he the only administrator? And the second question I was going to ask him, okay, do you have an issue with the page name or the page name that shows up on the menu? But you may have sorted all that out because we went all
Yeah.
over the place.
Oh.
I
No.
doubt that the hosting company changed the name of your page. And if you're having a problem with your pages loading, that could be the quality of your hosting, most likely. But those are my
Well,
comments.
The problem is that the site was migrated from WordPress.com, I guess, over to just a host WordPress.
Did you
and
use a
some
migration
trial.
tool, or did the hosting
Well,
company?
this was years ago.
Oh, okay.
And when it came over, the menus were changed and then certain pages were used in a view of others. And this was done by other people. So at the point I took over, I had basically, I'm just digging and
Did
trying
you
to find
switch
stuff.
themes when you switched hosting? Did you end up with a different theme?
Yes, that got changed too.
That'll probably affect your menu there.
Yeah.
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 Thank you. I was kind of after the point there, but thanks, Drew, for following up.
Okay, any other requests that anyone would like to put to us?
Yes, I'd like to mention about a site on which I am getting continuously bot attacks. And I'm getting 100 new subscribers every day. And most of them are cryptocurrency. So my developer, I'm not a programmer. I know very little, and the site is a charity site. And the programmer whom I hired locally, a supposedly expert in WordPress, he put reCAPTCHA, and reCAPTCHA did not do nothing. So I'm looking for advice and also competent developer I might head to, because I'm not capable to do anything myself.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Is it contact spam, or is it comment spam, or is it both?
Or users.
Yeah, commenting on your posts, or is it coming through your contact page?
I have three sources where it can come in. One is sign in on WordPress. The second is contact page, and third is forum. I do not know where it is coming from.
So you're having like people or bots or whatever sign up to be added to your site to users. Is that what's happening?
When I go to the user, they are in there.
Yeah. I think that there's user registration should be disabled by default, but you might have it enabled to the public. You might want to turn that off.
Or have a approval mechanism that
Two-factor.
the membership doesn't become effective until they
Confirm.
validated their email, and then you have decided that they don't look like a bot to you.
Okay, I could do that.
Sorry, I interrupted Dave. So
No, that's cool. No, that's correct. If you're you know, if you're hosting a space where all are welcome, you might want to change that policy and have it be vetted. But it depends on what kind of interaction you're looking for from your visitors. I don't think anybody with a computer should be able to leave a comment. I think that they should have to register in some capacity, and it depends on the offering. There's also if you're finding that, like, well, I guess new users can be like, you can open the door for new users to create themselves, but that sounds like your problem. So there's I'm not quite sure if you have a membership or a lot like a create new.
why don't you give us the URL to the site?
Yeah.
And then we can have a quick look at it. So if you put the URL in the chat
What's the
window,
Link to your
then
site.
we'll all see it and be able to.
Yes, I will put that in. It is a site with a video starts. You can stop the video from running. I will give the site index.
You could probably want to add two-factor authentication for anybody that's a user.
Well, it is a charity site. I don't want to make unwelcome.
Well, they're pretty, all it is to make sure you're getting a legitimate user, not a bot. And there's a plugin called Clean Talk for the comments. That might be a paid one. But it basically, the people that have a history of doing that, they'll blacklist them, keep them from loading up your comments with a bunch of spam.
Yeah, I was thinking
it's a digital platform where curious thinking and truth-seeking non-Muslims
She said,
gain
"How do you turn
knowledge
this
about
off?"
Islam. We call them the
I
sun.
was also thinking of
From the very
a simple plugin like WordFence. Wrap it around, and then basically it will get rid of all the unwanted traffic, and the traffic that you want will show up. And it's just install it in a couple of configurations, and you're good. And it basically will protect your site from almost anything.
Say
And so how does the plugin identify the unwanted?
It has a blacklist of IPs. So it works as a firewall. So around the site. So you visit it, there's a pause for WordFence to check the IP that is visiting it. If WordFence doesn't like it, it will stop that IP from visiting the site. Everything else will be directed away. Everything else will just go straight into the site. It's a great security.
And is this available in the free version of WordFence?
Yes.
Okay, so that may be something to try initially, because it is quite easy to get started, especially if you accept all the default settings in the free version, and then turn on the tracking that's being referred to here, or at least the filtering. And within a day, it either stops the flood or it doesn't, because the assumption is that these IP addresses that WordFence uses are a meaningful representation of all the bots out there to make it worth relying upon, right? If it only catches 10% of them, it's not much of a tool.
No, it's a known security tool within the industry. So
I know about the security tool, but this is not its main feature.
No, it's not.
How do you even sign up for this
It's
site?
one of the roundabout ways of using it.
Right.
I did not get the name of the plugin. Please repeat it so I can write
I'll
it.
put it in the chat.
Please.
WordFence. I don't think F is capitalized, is it?
No, yeah, like that.
Yeah.
How do you,
the other
how
one
do you
that
sign up for this website? May I ask? How do you actually sign up for this?
For
Like,
what's
how do
this?
Okay.
The website that you linked. Like, how do you create a new user for yourself or something like that? Because that's his problem, right? He's
Right.
using
Maybe mine.
user.
Well,
Can
I think
I-
he's getting comments
Can I
spam
make a suggestion?
signing up. So what he's got both.
Can I just make a suggestion? I could see on your My Account page, you've got your email address there.
On the email address,
It's on your, I think it's My Account, on the My Account page. You've got an email, admin at.
admin@imamdawa.com.
Okay, maybe you want to take that off, because if you have both a contact page, I assume it's the same address. All your,
Yes.
okay, you should take that address off, because I recently had the same problem with a client and his contact page. Once we put his address on there for another contact for one of his admin staff, he started getting all of the spam instead of just depending on the contact page alone, because it's the same address. It's the same email address. And then once they took it off, it stopped, like basically stopped, because I think a lot of bots were just emailing it automatically.
But I have 3 pages where they can enter.
Okay.
So what should I do?
Wait a second. You're confusing, I think, two things. I think the last point was dealing with a security issue that's separate and apart from the one that you're talking about. So people registering as users or becoming members without any control at all, that's one issue to be dealt with in a variety of ways. The question of, is your email address available to anyone going to the site, and therefore is likely to be harvested, collected, and used to identify weaknesses in your site or to attack the site. So the best practice is either not to have an email address, or to obfuscate it. Obfuscating your email address means it's there, but with a gimmick or a little bit of JavaScript code or another mechanism, it can't be scraped. The bots that scrape web pages looking for this kind of stuff can't get it. So that's a separate security issue dealt with with a different technique than the one that you start off talking about. So really, you've got different security requirements dependent on the type of site that you're running, and that you're telling us that you really don't know how to do this, so you'd like some help. So, for example, there may be suggestions within our group here of places to go to look for a developer to do this sort of thing, or posting to the WPTO Twitter account, or
Sir, let me tell you, I am
to one of several places that developers might see, and just say, I need a developer to help me with blah, 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 1 or 2 sentences. In other words, solicit interest in that way.
Yes, I have a sad story behind it. First site was developed at Upwork, and the developer took 3 months and half finished it. Then I took the new developer locally in Mississauga. He took 3 months, and this is the story.
So you've had a bad experience.
So 6 months, and the site is not ready. I'm looking for an expert. Where can I find? Every time I Google, everyone is expert.
What's your budget?
Very small.
Well, then I can't help you.
Anyway,
You gotta pay for professionals.
Yeah,
I mean, like, you know,
but at
I
least-
mean, would you think, Dave, what would be a minimum budget to be credible in dealing with this?
$1,000.
Yeah, I was going to say $1,000 is like the starting point, right?
Yeah.
One of the things is that security issues and performance issues tend to be rather open-ended. It doesn't help in a security issue if you sort of close one door, the front door, and you put a nice lock on it, but the back door happens to be wide open, right? And you just didn't know that. So in both that as well as sort of performance tuning a site, you have to have a strategy which deals broadly with the issues and doesn't leave big gaps to nullify the effect that you're trying to produce, a safe, secure site. What's that one that I mentioned a couple of sessions ago? It's not Upwork. Drew, do you remember the one that
Codeable?
Paul Byrne uses?
Yeah, Codable.
Codable. Codable, amongst the different platforms, marketplace platforms, is I would think the higher end. The fellow that I'm referring to, who is one of the expert developers that I know, gets his rate of around $100 an hour, and gets fairly sizable projects from Codable. But there again, your $1,000 budget may not be enough to attract the interest of someone competent. And it's not, I don't think, Dave, tell me otherwise, but I don't think it's a question of expertise. I think it's competence here, right? You don't have to be a WordPress whiz.
Part and parcel. Yeah, it doesn't seem like a very complicated offering, but I would
Yeah,
invite
but I mean,
you to
if you are thorough, if you're well versed in the security aspects of a site and maybe do that most of the time, that's enough expertise. You don't have to have written a book.
One thing I would consider entertaining, when you said this is a charity and that you kind of want to have it be open, use the WordPress site to advertise engagement on another platform. Don't have the website be the place where people leave comments, where they log in, or something else. Use a platform dedicated to social interaction and community, such
Like
as Discord or circle.so or something like that. There are other platforms that are dedicated to like kind of community building and engagement. The WordPress website can just point to that and say you're offering and say you should join us over here, because that platform is going to take care of the security for you. You can still engage there, but you use the WordPress to sell it, and that then you are not tasked with spinning up and fixing all those bugs yourself. If your budget is limited or if your expertise is limited, I usually encourage people to outsource that kind of functionality whenever you can and use a website as just the seller of the idea. And then, don't try to do everything with that. It's kind of like the same thing if you're selling physical products. I always encourage people, don't go down the rabbit hole of like customizing WooCommerce, because it's just, if you don't have the budget for it or the patience for it, you're not going to make it. Just point to a Shopify store or point to a, big commerce store or somebody who has an entire business dedicated to doing that, and use your website as the mechanism to get them to click towards it and sell the idea there.
One more idea. Suppose if I take away the contact page and the forum and only leave registration, will that help?
There is a very quick thing that you can do that will help a little bit. And that is to go to your dashboard, go into settings, general, and about 3/4 of the way down the page, you'll see it says membership, and there's a little checkbox that says anyone can register.
Right.
You might want to uncheck that. I
Right.
think that's where all of your users are coming from.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay, then it will require moderation.
That's right.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to make a couple quick comments. To fix your spam problem, I don't think it should cost $1,000, but you probably have other security issues that could quickly get there. You just need to, there's a couple of plugins, most of them are free, that will, and two-factor authentication for the users is a key one, really recommended. But taking the email off of your site so the bots won't, what they'll do is they'll go across your site, look for them, and then suddenly they'll all start sending you stuff. That's what I think new user was trying to explain to you, that if you do that, that'll cut down on a lot of it. But if you're looking for a developer and you're looking for someone who's going to spend time for it, I'm going to put a list of WordPress meetups that happen every month, almost all of them online. And there are developers that will help you for free if you go to their help desks, not all of them. And you can kind of sit and listen to them and decide who you want to hire. But to fix your spam problem, I mean, there's some very knowledgeable people in here, and they may be right. You could end up spending $1,000. But this is a very common problem that gets solved very often, almost for free, if you'll take the time. Now, if you don't have a background in this and you've got a kind of a website that's important to you, you probably do want to hire somebody. You probably do want to hire put a budget of around $1,000. You're going to get way better value long term if you're not willing to make the commitment yourself. But your spam problem can be solved probably for a lot less than $1,000, in my opinion.
Right, Mike, I think Shaw has said that he won't be doing this, that he doesn't really have any capability in that regard.
Even
the other thing is that I think
spam problem though.
Yeah, but I think we should steer him away from one step at a time, because that will just simply turn the flood into another area. That's why I'm saying
he's got bigger problems with his website than he.
It's probably a good idea to decide now to address security and do it properly, not just, oh, well, let's get the contact page off. Okay, so that's one part of a multi-part problem addressed, but it's not time to relax. You're really just, that's the first step on the journey. There are a number more to follow. I think we would be misleading you to say, here's a quick fix, because the implication is that you can do that and then pause. No, if keeping spam or spam bots off your site is important because of the nature of the site. I mean, while it is a charity site, it is a sort of site that's an attractive target, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
So as an attractive target, it's more than just simply you need a secure site. You need a demonstrably secure site. Your users want some assurance that whatever they put out in content or when they make use of it, they're not supplying information to God knows who. Could be anybody.
I put a plugin in the chat called Anti-Spam Bee. It is a free plugin that should help you a bit with your spam problem.
In other words, just ignore what Robin said.
Well,
Let's pick up a half a dozen plugins, jam them in, and let's cross our
Yeah.
fingers.
Yeah, I also think it's probably worth saying, and maybe this is uncouth in a WordPress meetup, but WordPress might not be the answer.
Yes,
If you
that's a
want
good point.
Like WordPress is for tinkering, it's for larger budgets. If you just need a web presence, you might want to look at that one where security is kind of handled and the features are like, things are a little bit more managed. You might want to look at a Squarespace or a Wix just to get the content out there without the burden of having to find the right checkbox or install the right security solution. Like that, WordPress is it's a melting pot, and it's also, it's a DIYer's platform somewhat. And so if you're not the why, like, then or you're not prepared to like hire somebody, or maybe you've struck out on a couple of shysters, then it might be time to head over to like Squarespace or something and see if you can just get this information up there with a contact form to contribute whatever your conversion is. But like if you're hosting an open forum, you're going to get the dregs of society to flock to you and put cryptocurrency links into it, unless you are very diligent about stopping that. So that's just a little tidbit.
Dave, your comment prompted me to remember an outfit called apricot.com. Is that? I think that's the right one. Anyway, it is
Wild Apricot.
Wild Apricot. It is, or at least it was, a leader in association management platforms. And associations can be anything. They certainly include your charity would be considered a membership-based organization. And so Wild Apricot is just an example of what Dave's talking about, except that instead of being a shop or e-commerce oriented thing or a social interaction sort of thing like Discord, Wild Apricot is targeting specifically people who have sites for members, membership activities, calendars, events, that sort of thing. And so all of these security issues would once again be the platform's responsibility rather than you.
Yeah,
No.
I just linked Circle in the chat as well. If you want to check that out, it's a community platform as well. And
Great. And now on
yeah.
the Wild Apricot, and tell me if you know, in the case of the one you're citing, they have a base level which is not free, but it's not particularly expensive when you consider a developer to fix anything would be 2 or 3 years of their base level membership cost for a site. So I recall, but I could be wrong. It could have doubled by now. It was something like $25 a month for a relatively small organization. But all of if you just simply find one of them, or now you've got 2 examples, if you put the 2 examples in a Google search, it'll find you all the other ones that are similar. Or
yeah,
so say, who competes with, Wild Apricot and Circle.so, and Google will turn around and give you a list of 8 or 9 other platforms to the same effect. And then if you have a ChatGPT account, you can submit them all and say, here are my requirements. Which ones of these meet my requirements? And the little robot inside will churn around and then come back with actually a half intelligent answer. Certainly for someone who's a novice, rather more quickly than you would be able to do if you were going to check out, even a half a dozen platforms of this kind.
Circle is $99 a month, and that might sound like a lot, but if you can't pay $99 a month to host a community, then don't host the community. Like, that's just, things cost money, and I would say that you're probably spending more in time and frustration and false starts trying to roll it yourself than to just pay the piper.
Thank you very much. You have given me a lot of time, a lot of attention, and thank you very much. This is the first time I joined the meetup, and very valuable.
Can I ask you a favor then? Since you found this a useful exercise, return to the page where you found us,
Yes.
the event page for today, and down the bottom of the page there are comments. And if you found the session worthwhile, then just say so, because people need to be encouraged. This is not scary, that there is good information, that we're friendly people to deal with, that you got help, although you still have to do a bunch of work yourself.
Right.
Damn it. You got a good start.
Just
So if that's the
please,
case,
please no
would
cryptocurrency
agree
links.
I'm sorry?
I said, when you leave a comment, just don't paste any cryptocurrency links in there. I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, Robin, if I could just say something, I
Sure.
do something similar with not-for-profit, and we shut down our site for two-way, and we use MailChimp, and MailChimp was getting spammed, and bots were going after it. So I use every free tool that's on MailChimp, and now our membership list is increasing only by a half a dozen a month, and the MailChimp tools tell me which people are clicking and which one I've never received, and I can then send an email just to people who are not doing anything, and if they don't answer, I can purge them. So this is something that's free, and then once you've got it in MailChimp, you can then, if you want, you can take that listing, people who signed up after June 1st, and I can then add it back into my site if I want to give those people access to pages that aren't public. So it's something, because a lot of people are using MailChimp, and it's worth knowing that you can use their sign-up sheets and
Good.
then bring it back for nothing, for free.
Useful point. Shaw, I just put in the chat window here my email address. If you
Yes,
want to send me an email so that I can reply,
right.
I will give a little thought to ways to find a developer. I won't necessarily have an answer, but I'll get you on to the next step if I can. And I don't like using the Meetup mail because of the sort of convoluted way it works. So that's why here's my email address, or just type in yours as well, and then that way we can connect. Because your question is one that comes up, and we don't have a kind of good answer about where to go to find potential developers. Part of the problem, even if you find people who are candidates, so to speak, is that it's hard for you to describe what you need. They have to spend an hour or two just to sort of sort out what you're calling this, that, and the other thing, and figure out what is actually the situation. So part of preparing to find someone is to be clear what you need in terms that a developer would understand.
Thank you very much.
Which I can help you with, even if I can't find you the developer. I certainly know how to ask the right question.
There is a certain degree of you get what you pay for.
Agreed.
Yeah.
No, I am willing to pay a reasonable amount. I've already spent $7,000 already on it.
Wow.
And still it is not complete.
So Dave, is this something that you might be interested in if there's the budget involved?
I'm available for hourly consulting. I'm a developer.
Okay, throw in your email.
Sure.
And why not? I mean, anybody else who's attending who would like to be considered or put on a list of, if I've met somebody, I can judge it a little bit differently than if it's just a name with some CV information and some sites you might have worked on. So as I say, give me your email address and I'll start a list, and we can go from there.
I pasted a link to my nascent personal site on a platform that I built. I actually kind of wanted to get some eyeballs on that, or at least some ears on the concept. But we can. I don't know if this is like a show and tell, or just like my site's busted and take a look at it, because I'm very happy to help first and then show off my stuff later.
Okay. Let me have the site first. Why don't you come back next month, and we'll have had a chance to have a look at the site and perhaps follow up sessions. And
well, I was interested in like the question you asked or posed earlier about thoughts about meetups or thoughts about WordCamps specifically.
Yep.
Because I've been to 3 WordCamps in my life. I think I went to one in New York, one in DC, and then one in Buffalo last year. And I made some good connections, but I also felt like a lot of it was wasting my time because I was listening to people giving non-specific talks about the importance of doing the right thing or the future or something that like didn't really have an educational like
It
hook.
wasn't
I
specific
didn't
to WordPress.
Yeah, it was a lot of it is just kind
Yeah.
of like it's like a TED talk. You're not like
Yeah.
learning how to do something. You're just kind of learning to think about something or become aware of something. And I think a lot of
And you
people
didn't filter those out just from their
I did, and
perspective?
I'm a pretty social dude, so I made some friends, but a lot of people who are in the development game are not. They're introverts, and we like to just tinker. And sometimes it comes down to like, is somebody going to sit down next to you at the table in the social area and say what you're working on or not? And so like, I was wondering, it's not this meetup is about fixing people's problems, but have you ever taken part in something where it was actually like a sanctioned show and tell, where somebody has like a 10 minutes, 15 minutes to kind of like show off their thing, get constructive feedback, criticism, rounds of applause or something, and then like ideas for how it might be useful to change it or something like that, so that at least like everybody could get their opportunity to take the microphone as opposed to just being this passive observer. Because like WordCamps are fine, it's a nice like social thing, but a lot of like smart people who go to those things, like they're not speakers, and there's a kind of musical chairs about who gets to talk about what, and you can't promote your own thing, and that might be your purpose, the thing that you built, and you want to share it with people, like, but there's always that conflict of self-promotion, and that has to like self-promotion has to be quelled. And I'm like, well, what if there was just a meetup where it was all about self-promotion and feedback, because that's what would actually be the most useful to us as
Well,
creators.
your thoughts have sort of prompted me to think that why not have a session, and later on, not necessarily the next session or the August session, but say a September session, and promote it with enough time in advance to find a half a dozen people like yourself that would like, and 15 minutes seems like a modest slot to have 5 minutes to introduce something, 5 minutes of discussion, 5 minutes of feedback on sort of points, or maybe it's 20 minutes or 30 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
But what do other people think? Would they find this something interesting to attend, to hear a mix of developer-oriented people? They needn't necessarily be developers. I mean, a designer, for example, might want to show off a new theme. But people who have created something in WordPress that they want to present and then receive critical feedback and recommendations. What do you think, Drew?
The Toronto design community does stuff like that, but it's strictly for design, and it's done in person.
Right. What's the thing called? Toronto Design Community?
I can't. I did see it. I kind of ignored it, but I saw a notice about something like that.
If you can find it, link us. I'd be interested. I'm a designer
Yeah.
too.
Are you in Toronto?
I am.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
Yeah, I've just been always kind of like, I'm also a user experience guy. So like,
oh,
it
okay.
always confounded me that we were relegating ourselves to, like I said, these travel accommodation things, and that conferences are great, but they are essentially a vestige of meetup thinking that has been around for way longer than the internet has. So why don't we leverage the tools that we have in front of us and meet up 3 times a week? Why don't we do it tomorrow? Like, why don't we don't have to have these things be so like seasonal or cyclical or annual. It seems like something that should be almost ever present, like a roving micro conference that you can choose to attend if you want. I don't know. Maybe it's easier said than done, and I'm not an organizer, but it's just giving me pause to think like
Well,
that.
it helps to have a framework such as we have here,
Yeah.
where there are other meetups, WordPress meetups in the Toronto area, in addition to ours that are part of the same group. So we're in a technical sense a subgroup.
Mhm.
And anybody can create a new subgroup. So I would be interested in trying the idea out and see if it works. But then the potential is to make a new subgroup where this can have a sort of a more meaningful kind of name, theme, description of what it is. And then part of what makes Meetup works is that they're a reoccurring thing. And that means that if you don't have a chance this month, you might try next month. And so while it'd be nice to just have 3 in a week as sort of ad hoc stuff, it's a burden on anybody organizing it to do other than just simply open the doors and say, okay, anybody want to attend? Anybody want to speak? Work it out, guys, and then throw it open. That doesn't work very well. But trying the idea out, seeing if there is an interest on the part of people to attend, on the part of people to participate, to present and so on, test the idea in a sort of a structured way to say, okay, if that works and people like it, well, then what's the best way to make this a regular thing?
I'd have to embed myself a little bit more firmly in the WordPress Toronto ecosystem. This is but my first step into it. I've been somewhat of in the shadows. And you mentioned that this was a subgroup of that. Is there like a place? I mean, I like helping people fix their sites, but is there like more to the store that, like, as a WordPresser, a professional WordPresser in Toronto, that I should be aware of? Is there other?
Well, the other subgroups have more or less sort of disappeared as of the pandemic.
Yeah,
haven't come back to life and may not. And so new ones will come into existence as people decide to become organizers and host them, sort of thing.
Sounds like something I got to do.
Yeah. So in effect, I am the organizer of the whole Toronto thing because I'm the only active organizer of a subgroup. There are other guys around, but we haven't heard from them for a year or two. So they could be alive, but they may not be. Kind of
one guy in the whole city. It just seems like it's remarkable. I don't know. I'm not from here.
Right.
But I was kind of surprised. I think I might have even spoken to you about this before, maybe on a chat or something. I was like, where is everybody? Where are the WordPressers? How are they?
Well, I'm always surprised that given the size of the GTA and the popularity of WordPress, there's got to be 250,000, intermediate and above site owners. I mean, forget about do-it-yourselfers and the novices, but I mean, people who've got money on, in the game, who are trying to accomplish something that's concrete and business specific, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so, I mean, one of the things that one might look at is in the Slack channels that WordPress runs, there is a marketing channel or set of channels, and their job is to bring WordPress, to the different markets that are there for them. I don't know what they've been doing.
Gotcha.
Hang on just a second. I've got to mute somebody. There we go. I've lost my thought. Where were we?
You were saying like where'd everybody go, and somebody has to step up.
Right. So when I think about it, I think, because I have a marketing background amongst other things, and I think, okay, you take the percentage of WordPress sites, that are percentage of sites that are WordPress, and so on and so on and so on, and apply those to the GTA population. You should be able to. We should have more than this for sure.
Reese, you got a mute button, buddy.
Who is it though?
I don't know, Reese, maybe. I don't know.
Robin, just mute everybody and then unmute the person who needs to speak.
Okay, I just muted Reese, so that seems to have killed it. And
I have a couple.
Jaw was muted
on these meetups.
Yeah.
I go to 30 or 40 of these a month. I run 5, 6, depending on the week myself.
My new best friend.
I'm sorry.
My new best friend. You are.
Yeah, I put a list of them.
Yeah, I saw it. Thank you.
I go regularly too, and some of those are help desks. That's all they do. And like there's one Thursday night is the San Jose, Santa Cruz one. It's a little late for you East Coasters. That thing sometimes runs 5, 6, 8 hours.
Is that the one that you have to pay for?
Oh, these are all free.
Okay, because there is a large one in the LA area that I mean, it's not horrifically expensive, but there is a monthly fee for it. And it's the only one of its kind. And so I thought you might be referring to that. If Dave's not familiar with it, in WordCamps, if you may have seen them, there are something they call, help desks. In fact, where you go with your problem and you sit down with somebody and they work with you on the problem and try to fix it right then and there. And so meetups sort of draw upon that kind of notion of how to help people. That's where these meetup help groups come from. And that's sort of the idea of it. We just happen to call this one a site clinic, but help desk would be the same sort of idea.
Yeah.
Now, when you say help desk, Dave, is not just the meetup. Are you saying that the people who attend have their own help desks, or are you just referring to the meetup as a help desk?
Well, were you directing that to Dave?
Yes, Mike.
Oh, well, see, I'm in 5 or 6 in the LA, San Diego area. They're all free.
Right,
And
but did you hear the question?
yes.
Oh,
And
okay.
so these help desks, like tomorrow night, or let's see, Thursday night will be the San Jose, Santa Cruz one. And there'll be about 30 people in there, and about a dozen of them will be advanced developers. Some of these have got 50, 60 WooCommerce sites. They're hosting services, and they sit there for free. Will look at a site and they will advise people, and they'll just fix their formatting problems, they'll fix their loading problems, they'll just right there on the spot. There's San Jose, Santa Cruz does it. Portland has one on Saturdays once a month. The Inland Empire is a LA one, second Thursday of every month he does it. I've been on that Inland Empire one. It starts at 6, and I've been all the way till 8 in the morning, people just doing free stuff, helping them sort out their WordPress problems. These are very advanced. Now, not all of them, there's beginners, there's all levels. But when you look for these meetups that are specifically help desks or wonder bars, or they'll call them that, those can be very, very informative. And you just sit back and listen. You sit back and listen how other people solve their problems. But what the Raptor 7 guy was talking about with the spam, I've seen that multiple times come up, and they'll tell you right there, this is what's going on. You don't have this. They'll tell them. And it's not just one person. It's like 6 or 8 from across the country.
I'm not in need of help. I'm more of a helper. I'm a problem solver.
Oh, I can see. I can
But I did want to get involved in the community. But I understand that is the that's the like kind of periphery of WordPress meetups. It's more like, I mean, not to be terribly blunt, but like it's more like, can I get some free help?
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
I just posted in the meetup for the UX design critique that I was mentioning. I couldn't remember what it was called.
Lovely.
But it is actually online, and it's tomorrow night.
Okay.
I have a question.
I need to
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. I have actually a CSS question. I've been trying to solve it on my own because I'm really
bring it.
an amateur when it comes to coding. It's basically with, I don't know if I can put in my site. It's with the navigation with a hover effect.
Now you're speaking my language.
Yeah.
Why don't you show us the site and the specific place where you want the hover to work?
Yeah. Let's see here.
Thank you, Drew, by the way. It's also, I guess, the issue of having, like, if you have 91 people going to a thing, and then like who helps? Like help is kind of like blasted out.
Well, actually, some of the groups that have a sort of well-established sort of routine and are sizable break out into individual rooms with a couple of people helping a particular person on a specific problem, and then that's all they do in that particular session, or at least session within a session. And then when that's done, they rejoin the group, or may go to another breakout room and help in some other problem. But the idea is that they're worked on in parallel.
Indeed.
And therefore it's less helpful when you want to get a feeling for what the issues are or how people are going about things, because you only sort of listen to one of 5 or 6 at a time. And you may not pick the right one for something you're interested in, but they do a terrific volume. And of course, it's more hands-on because their goal is to actually resolve the issue right there, hands-on.
All right. Well, speaking of which, let me prove my worth, as I have taken enough time questioning the integrity of WordPress meetups across this land, and let me solve the CSS problem.
Oh, great.
Or at least I will be a candidate. Everybody else is welcome.
Even if you can give me some direction, but it's just if you can see the site, it's a Caesar Doc.
Have you shared the site? Have you used the share screen?
Yeah, CaesarDoc.com.
Right, that's the site, but
Yeah.
you know how to
It's-
share your screen,
It's
displaying what it is you're talking about?
Oh, sorry about that. I don't.
yeah, it's in the chat.
I don't know if I can bring it up on the screen.
So in chat, it's the share screen button, green, on the
Green,
bottom
okay,
row
sure.
of this window.
Good UX choice on that green color too. Like there.
You see it?
Yep.
Okay, so it's got like on the navigation menu. Oh, I got.
Oh, log in.
Okay, it's. You can't see it, no?
Oh no,
We can see the site, but it's
what's
the public view, and we'd like to see the dashboard.
Well, we want to see the error first, yes?
Okay.
Well, that's where we get to the error.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I'm just showing you like visually on the user end.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so there's that drop down menu under services.
Yes.
And then when you go under, the first one is a epilepsy specialist. And then that whole like line hover that's there, it should, I'm trying to get it like just going across just the word itself. I don't
Yes.
want it to go right across the whole column. And
Yes.
I've done it at the beginning. I got it, and then I made some changes to the navigation, and then I can't get it. Like I spent like maybe like 3 or 4 days trying to figure it out. And like I said, I'm not an expert when it comes to the CSS or coding, but maybe I'm.
Well, I don't think you need to assume that there's CSS required.
Yeah, I don't.
It may be, but you normally resort to CSS because the theme and the other, the editor can't get you what you want using the settings which already exist in WordPress and have been supplemented by the theme. So, Dave, are you still there?
Yeah, I already have the fix.
Yeah.
But
Okay, so if you want to just take over and bring off, whatever steps you want next.
Okay, so what we're looking at. Well, okay, so do you want me to talk about like how I would diagnose this?
Well, just do it and demonstrate it.
Okay.
Like,
Do you want me to share my screen with you?
Well, you'd have to have what do you call it? Permission.
You want? No, sorry.
What is it called? When you can control the other person's screen, and then you could just.
Oh, oh, okay.
Can you log in, please?
You want me to go into the WordPress?
Yes, right
Okay.
now.
Interestingly, I actually see this differently from what is on the shared screen. I see that I see it the underline as going to the end of the word specialist and then stopping.
Yeah, see,
Which is what you want.
It's the current
Okay,
page link. I can show you where it is if you permit me to share my screen.
Sure,
So
go
when
ahead.
you-
Go ahead.
Okay.
Turn off your share screen and then let Dave share his.
Yeah, I'll show you where it is.
Okay.
All right. So the reason why it worked, well, let me just share first and then we'll get there. Go ahead and do it. Can you see my screen now?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Oh, great.
All right. So here's how I would actually troubleshoot this in the first place. So what you're seeing is the underline under the anchor tag. But let me try to back up and untrigger this hover here.
Just by way of context,
familiar with it?
This is the inspector tool that's available in all modern browsers.
Yeah. So what's happening is the theme or style sheet or whatever is giving a like thick purple underline to the currently selected parent. So when you go to a child page of services, you want this to show up here, and that's consistent with what you want, right?
Yeah, just exactly like services. It's
Yep.
I guess when it's stagnant,
Yep.
static, you know, you don't want I don't want it
Mhm.
going like right from the beginning to the end of the column. Just underlining that
Right.
menu selection
Right.
selected.
So the same CSS rule that is giving it that thick underline is actually underlining this as well. And the reason why that's happening is the following. I'll show you. I'll inspect this. And what I'm going to do is use these developer tools to trigger a hover on here so it stays open. So that will allow me to interact with it without it going away when I move. And so if we actually go and inspect the anchor tag inside of the submenu, we can see that it's got a border bottom too.
Yes.
You don't want that. You want that to be like this. Or sorry, you want that to be not this one. So if I like cancel this out, I think that should give us what we want, right? So
that's a border, in other words, rather than an underline.
That's right, because
Wouldn't an underline be better?
What's the difference?
Well, the problem is the style of the parent, the style that's being applied to the parent anchor here is cascading downwards and being applied to child anchors of the current menu item.
But
So
why is the word services have a border that's only the length of the character string, but epilepsy specialist, no, not the case. Although on what Drew says is that when he views this site, it does have the shorter border that ends at the word specialist.
Yeah, I discovered.
No, he's talking about the hover
that.
initially.
I was looking at the initial hover effect.
Yeah. The reason why
the home page.
The reason why the border spans this entirety is because links, these top links, these capitalized links in the header, are only as wide as their text.
Yes, yes.
And the ones in here are padded on left and right. See those little big chunks of green on the sides?
Yes.
That padding expands the width of the link, and then a border bottom would cover that entire element.
Right.
So
it's a trade-off. It's a trade-off between the sort of the context of the menu label and the border itself. So if you want that background and so on in the padding, then you end up with the wider border.
Well, mistakenly so, because the selector is wrong. So you can so submenus can have their own style. So this is a CSS fix if it's not something available to the theme. Do you know, like, do you write CSS in any capacity? Has anybody written CSS to this site?
That's a customized. Yeah, that's the customized CSS.
Okay.
And this is Divi.
Yeah, yeah.
So that that rule needs to be revised because it is targeting too many links within the parent. So if we go to, let's go back to hover this so we can pop it open again, because I just want to refresh it to show the problem. And what is giving this the bottom border, if we can, I'm sorry, the screen share is a little slowing me down here. It's here. So wherever this is, this 3-pixel solid, purple border. The fact that current menu item, so current menu parent A is what's given services the bottom border. Current menu item A, the epilepsy specialist is the current menu item. You can see it here. So you're essentially giving that a bottom border. And that anchor tag goes full. So you want to remove this part of the selector and just keep current menu parent A. Now, if you want to style that current menu item in some other way, you're just like you're shortcutting. You're putting two things in the same like style rules. So if you want to do some specific styles to the current menu item, like of the page that you're on, you can just hoist this out and write a different set of rules. So let's say I wanted like current menu item A to be blue or something like that. So if I delete this, if the border will go away, and I can also add a rule up top. Come on now. And I said current menu item A, please work. And then we just, can say something like color blue or
Why don't we make the change though that she's specifically looking for, which is just
remove the border?
Yeah, truncating the border, or changing it so that the underlining is only for the character string.
Goes like that. Like it's going to be a little bit different, but you can do stuff like text decoration. Sorry, thickness 2 pixels or something or more. This might have some other styles that I'm competing with, but you see where I'm going with this. So like adding an underline is going to be a little bit different. Underline or text decoration underlines behave differently than bottom borders. They go under letters. You can see it.
Right. Okay, so it does break up though as it goes past, for the descenders characters.
Which is kind of ugly in my humble opinion. And if you want to show somebody that they're on this page, I would, as a designer, just choose another method. Like you might do something like filter contrast 2 or something, or sorry, that was 12. Or just something that makes it stand out slightly without overwhelming. Another thing is to just take the padding off of these anchors.
Yeah.
So does it really add anything of consequence?
Well, if we do that, it'll give us this, and then we can actually do the border and
do a border the way that you want.
pad this panel. There's a lot of different approaches, a lot of ways to crack that egg. Of course, with CSS, but that's where your problem is if you just wanted to and as a user experience comment, it's useful to show the current parent. I think I honestly think that current page indicators are somewhat overrated, but that's just my own snarkiness. Because you don't have every page in the navigation, so some pages won't actually show you're on this page. So if you do, but WordPress does do you the favor of providing you with current menu item and current page item classes that you can hook into with it, which is what you've done. So I would just, but it's not super useful especially in a drop down that you need to show what page you're currently on. But if you do feel differently, you could do everything from italicizing that to putting a before attribute on it to show a little caret or chevron before it or something like that. But in general, when you're navigating, you're not necessarily making the mistake of visiting the same page that you're on. It's kind of like you're on that page. You're looking for something else. So having the indicator of where you are isn't always something that I would drop into navigation. Breadcrumbs are usually a little bit more conventional of a way of doing that, of making that communication like you are here. I usually advise to do that, but anyway, I hope that pointed you to the right line of code in your CSS so that you can.
There's no way, no, because the thing is, I just wanted the underline, basically the hover underline, to be exactly the same as.
Well, wait a sec. Dave, that can be done, correct? Because when we took out the padding, they all went to the left margin, but then that can be fixed so that they are positioned where they are now, and then add the border, and it will. Or the underline, the border rather.
So can you show me again where you?
Let me show. Okay, so
I'll
show you to get what you want. So what you want is, instead of padding the anchors, you want to pad their container. So that way the anchors will only be as wide as their text, and a bottom border on the anchors will match them. So let's try that. I think this is kind of what you want. And
Yeah, I think that is the
just
objective.
flexing my muscles here, but like permit me.
And,
So
and
if
if
we
later she wants to make changes that are specific to pages, then that's a frill. But the main thing is to get it to what she started out asking for. So let's do
Sure.
that. And just by the by, guys, the video recording of the session, when viewed through the Grain platform, which the link for which I provide, allows you to go, for example, to this specific place from a link, an internal link, because you want to only deal with this particular user's request and this particular answer. And then it will display what we're looking at now, and you can, in effect, make notes that you weren't able to do because you were paying attention, kind of thing. Or it was simply going too fast to collect all this detail. Well, you could just replay it as many times as you need to get to the right end of it.
There's some other stuff in the mix here. This rule is giving top menu submenu links an explicit width with a CSS of important, which is no. You don't want to be designating the width of things. You want them to be as wide as they need to be. So giving width and height to anchor links is not advisable. And it's part of what, I mean, is making these things go full. If I set
Can we
this
just
auto
put
instead.
a bit of padding before the start of each of the individual sublinks?
Well, the padding is going to extend that bottom border. So the padding, like the border will bottom, the padding will make the element wider. So if I
But
go
the,
to,
but the left, but the butting up against the left part of the column, rather than a space or two, just would be more like it started out being. Right?
What about
And so-
using some margin instead of padding?
Yeah, there's a left margin of, I don't know, 1M, 2M, something like that.
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfecto.
Yeah.
Is that what you wanted?
Yeah, yeah, actually, yeah.
Okay, you know, you just bought yourself a comment that you got to write now.
That's
Can you tell me your name, because you didn't
Oh,
change
sorry
it.
about that. It's Sophia.
Sophia.
Yeah,
So we don't have to keep calling you new user.
yeah, sorry about
New
I got that, Sophia, and I'm going to watch for your comment.
Okay.
So
So you're saying the auto width was causing the problem was part of the problem.
Actually, it's the explicit 235 pixel width that is making them all go to 235 pixels. And they should not be that. If you just turn that off, it should do the same thing. There's a little bit of looks like there's a little bit of something else is affecting them now. Oh, yeah, there's a number of different places where like anchor tags look like they are being given width. Here's 100%, here's 200 pixels, here's 235 pixels. I just steamrolled it with my own declaration here of
Okay.
auto,
Mm.
which is probably what you want to add.
So you're recommending that for all the menus, with the whole nav menu as a whole, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's something you should clean
That's
up.
the default width of an
Well, just
anchor
because
tag.
it's better form, better practice, right?
Yeah.
I should have the auto width in there. It should be there.
Yeah,
Yep.
or just remove all the others because that's the default value. Just when you are trying to position things, like giving things explicit widths or heights, especially like granular elements like anchor tags, is going to cause you pain later. And that there are other ways to like space things out. There are other ways to make sure things don't
Also
line
would
break.
screw up the responsiveness of the
Correct.
site, right?
Yep. So
Would you want to let WordPress do that rather than you?
So
you're-
there's a little bit of a melange of things, but are you looking for like the CSS to put in here to fix this? Because we can add this Band-Aid on top of this stack of declarations, or you can kind of undo this and kind of, I would recommend the latter, like scale back your customizations to width and height and any of this stuff that was customized. Also bear in mind that this used to be 20 pixels, so anchor tags were being given 20 pixels of padding, which does that. So padding, like, it makes an element wider, and then a border is going to be under that entire expanse. So you really, if you want the border to match the length of the text, then you're looking to ditch the side padding. Well, there's some other like tricks you can do, but that's the simplest way to think about it. Like the thing that's making this go the same length, I think, is probably an absolutely positioned bar under all those links. It's like an after attribute right here that's like, I don't know if you know a whole lot about studio elements, but that's what's actually doing this. So this is equal to the side padding, and there's a lot of just things depending on other things, depending on other things. So you might be best served just CSS has the important modifier, and you might be best just like bringing somebody in to just dunk it home on top of all of this stuff and try to tuck it under the bed, so to speak. Unless you have the time to just undo all of it, but I don't know how much you've done here. That's not too snarky, is it? I try not to be like a snarky comic book store guy in The Simpsons developer, but I do.
I did go in and try and fiddle around with the padding, and
Okay. There are going to be a few like whack-a-mole like issues here, I think. Let's see. I'm just refreshing. Okay. So the border is still down there, but you can leave the border.
Let me just interrupt for a second. If there's nobody else with a request, then we should continue with this because it's informative and a benefit. So first, let's just say, is there anybody here who has a question they haven't had a chance to ask? No? Okay, Dave, back to
I'm
you.
gonna wait till the next session to ask my question. I just wanted to, and I should introduce myself. My name is Mr. B. You can just refer to me as Mr. B.
Okay, we don't see you anywhere. Are you turn your video
No, it's
on?
the talking raccoon at the bottom.
Yeah, I'm the raccoon talking, I guess.
Oh, there, right.
Nice to meet you all. It's been a pleasure listening and learning. And I started up a WordPress a couple months ago. I got somebody on Fiverr to do it for me. And because I'm not the most knowledgeable or like experienced, I'm pretty novice at this whole web development stuff. There's a few things left out and certainly could be improved on. And I'm a do it yourself type of guy too. So I kind of let them kind of build those first few building blocks and lay the foundation. And I kind of want to step in and
okay. Sorry to interrupt, but do come back and we'd be happy to respond rather than today. And let's back to Dave to just finish off what he was working on.
Did you have a question, dude, or was that I didn't? Or
no, definitely come back next time. I don't want to hold up too much of everybody's time. I know you guys are finishing up here in the next 10 minutes, so do go back to what you're working on, Dave, and everybody else. And it's nice meeting you all, and hopefully I see you all next month or next session. Thank you.
Why don't you just, before you go,
word up.
What name, you must have a name other than Raptor 7. It makes it easier to identify you.
Yeah, Mr. B is fine. I
like sorry, that. You did say that. I missed that. Yeah. Mr. B?
Yeah, Mr. B, short for Brown.
Right.
My last initial.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Dave, back to you.
Did we lose our friend who I was actually helping, or am I missing?
Still
here. Sorry, Sophia's still here. Okay, I just didn't have the scroll. I was like, did she just peace out? Okay, so you said you adjusted the padding, you said? And you're muted. Sorry. You're muted. Sophia, you're muted.
Where is she? I can't see her.
She's here. She's muted though. And it
That
looks
doesn't
like,
affect, muting doesn't affect your. Ask to
well.
unmute.
Change her name to Sophia.
Right. There she is. Sophia.
There we go.
Dave's asking a question.
Yeah, no, I was just fiddling around with the padding and it didn't seem to make a difference. Like you said, maybe one I would fix and the other ones would just like, almost like a domino effect. It would just. One.
Well,
would
this
be-
is still here. I'm seeing this still here. Did you change this? And then this padding is this top menu LILIA on line 88 of your
Possibly.
file. That's what's giving it the side padding.
This, okay,
I need to like
okay.
erase myself here. Robin, I appreciate being moderated, man. This is really helpful. I appreciate you running this thing. You know I need it.
I do need some padding in there, like, and just like to have them like in the center, like because that word, that second drop down menu. That
Okay,
one with
so
the at the end it's really
Gotcha.
long, so
So you need space between the words and the sides of the panel, right?
yeah.
So you can either give that space to the anchor tags, which would make the borders go full, or you can remove that and then give space to the container. So now if I go to the submenu UL, this should have a little bit of top padding on it, and you just add that 20 pixels to the side of that. Or a margin. Actually, well, padding should do that. I think we might need to give the anchor tags. Oh, right. The anchor tags have a width. So you have to get rid of this width too. That's what's making them overflow the panel. So remember how I added like, or I took this away.
Okay.
So now we should be good. So this width of 235 pixels needs to go. The
Okay.
padding on the sides of the anchors needs to go. And that should, and then you basically add padding to their box that they all are sitting in, that UL here that has that green box around it.
I've got a question for Dave and Sophia. I've used CSS with HTML and PHP, but when I've been using object-oriented, I've always gone through a graphic interface where you basically hit some checkboxes and menu options. I just wondered how much of we're looking at today is from direct coding and how much of it was from using checkboxes in a visual editor, where you go into menu and you say, menu style and then submenu style and, selected item style, where you fill in checkboxes. Because I've seen a lot of this kind of error happen, with a graphic interface, and you don't actually get to look at the HTML. So under WordPress, is this something we're likely to run into from using a menu editor?
You want me to answer?
Sure, Dave, go ahead. I've got a thought, but go first.
Well, I would posit that some of these customizations were done with custom CSS. The WordPress navigation system tends to be a pretty black box as far as styling goes. It's usually dependent upon the theme, but I would imagine that these bottom borders were added with custom CSS. Is that correct, Sophia?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. All
So,
the hover
yeah.
effect. Yeah.
The answer really is it
added.
depends on the theme and the page builder you're using. Every theme and page builder have different things that they decide to UI for you that subsequently kick out CSS. It all kicks out CSS and
Yeah.
HTML,
Yeah.
right? So, but when it comes to fixing them, my inclination as a developer is just like go straight to the code, write code that fixes their ills, and checkboxes be damned, I guess. But some of these things, I mean, it's possible the Divi might have some kind of like active current menu item, styles.
Yeah, Dave, I was thinking that just from the class names, this looks like generated code
Yeah.
by Divi. And I don't know what your practice is, but these sort of these compound sort of selectors, not compound in the sense of multiple selectors, but rather multiple parts to the selector, is usually part of an elaborate scheme. I don't know if you looked at Beaver Builder code, but they were the first guys that I noticed they could produce selectors that were more than the width of a page, with
I'm a
10
Beaver
or
Builder
12
guy.
sort of sub elements to them.
Yeah.
And that seemed like a defining characteristic. But Sophie, if this was custom work, who did it? Did they document it?
I did.
Oh, you did it.
Yeah, I put it in there. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Weird.
The-
Well, so
Yeah, the-
I didn't have the impression that you'd written this CSS, because generally speaking, when you write the CSS, you know what you decided not to do and what your choices were, like border versus underline. That
Yeah,
you would have tried the underlining.
I actually I watched a tutorial. I had watched a tutorial on how to put the underline and the hover effect, and then I wanted to have the to do the hover effect for when it just for the selected down the drop down menu selection.
Right.
And
but you didn't create any classes or yourself.
No.
You just used
I
the
just
existing
added.
ones.
I just added to what was there.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Okay,
So,
guys, we're coming up.
yeah.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
I was gonna say the takeaway here, I think, is just understanding that there are multiple ways to. What's the modern way of saying multiple ways to skin a cat? That's probably not woke enough for this day and age, yes. But like CSS is a language, so there's multiple ways to say things, and there's multiple ways to think about spacing things. So you can go inward, you can go outward, and
then, I mean, just to complicate life,
yeah.
we have tools like the grid layouts and other things that provide a very specific framework within which the CSS to operate, and in theory, assisting you in the process, but adding another layer of complexity to the whole thing. So
yeah, and there are some drawbacks to this approach in terms of padding the outer box, because it would make the sides of this not clickable, because these are parts of the UL now.
right.
So if I were designing this, I would probably go and use what's called a pseudo element, which is actually what's being used. Those after CSS that you use to do that hover underline on an anchor link that did go full, but that pseudo element would be positioned in a way, which actually you did for the hovers, where it would line up with the sides, with the right sides of the text. That's a little bit more involved, and so this is just like kind of a first pass at this, but it's something where if you wanted to have this be like chiefly usable and not have people clicking in here and wondering why nothing was happening, then you wouldn't pad that the sides of that, and you would use another way to either imply this is where you are, or add a border under the text in the way that you wanted it to. So
to apply a pseudo, you're saying to apply another pseudo element just for the static underline that would match the hover effect.
yeah, you actually could probably use the same element.
Because that's what I was initially.
Yeah, you just force that to display. So on hover, you have it animating from probably 0% width to 100% width, and then you have it probably left of 20 pixels or something like that, right? Something like this. So if this is its own border per se, and all we need to do is say, let's say take the bottom border off of the links, which we did earlier. Where are we? Where's our bottom border guy? Well, let's just uncheck this for now. And then you go back to year after, and you can actually just say for the current one,
Mhm.
make that current after show, and don't have this, like you have the left of 20 because you're compensating for what was formerly the padding of the element, but maybe now we add the padding back. I know it's a mind.
Well, actually, there are many aspects of WordPress that involve this sort of potential rabbit hole, where especially we've had the experience, most of us, of sitting with a client and 99% of the work on a page, for example, is finished, but dicking around with the last small detail, which is really irrelevant from the point of view of usability, readability, findability, or any other sort of factor, but people just decide that's what they want, and that you play with it until you can produce that result.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate, Dave, your assistance in this session, and hopefully you do return. We're at our sort of bewitching hour, and
Just before we drop this, Sophia,
Yeah.
I do notice a typo on your homepage.
Sure, we're filming.
And on the homepage it says rated number 1 on the best 5 neurologists in Toronto. I think that should be best 5 neurologists, plural.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
way to go, Drew.
Yeah, thank you.
Good eye.
Good eye.
And you're gonna be uploading the recording? Because I'm probably gonna have to go over it.
Yes, if I'm lucky tomorrow, you'll get an email as the follow-up from this session, which will give you the YouTube URL and the grain URL. And as I say, the YouTube URL, plays and it has the transcript and so on. But the other one, the grain one, does much more processing to enable finding things within the 2 hours just by clicking on a link. As I recall, they made each person sort of a chapter in the overall video. Actually, YouTube does that as well, but I just haven't paid attention to it to the same extent. There's also a facility in both Zoom and Grain for querying the recording / transcript. And in theory, getting an intelligent answer back. Since I haven't tried it, I haven't even read the help page in either case, so I'm not recommending it, but it will come soon enough that we can take 2 hours of recordings and treat them as if they were one massive text that you could zoom into and then replay, copy the code, do whatever. So if anybody has any parting comments, now is the time. We're at the end of our session. Otherwise,
Thanks for your help. I really appreciate it.
don't forget the comment that you owe me.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Sophia, if you need help with CSS, like in other contexts, I left my information in the chat. Self promo.
Yeah, and you'll see that
if you can bill me out to your client.
If you haven't already got the
all right.
If you haven't already got the link, you'll get it in the list of the chat stuff.
Okay. You know what? I'll leave you a comment too. How about that, Robin?
Excellent.
All right. Yeah. Where do I? All right.
All help is appreciated.
Yeah.
Okay, guys.
Hold on.
Take care.
Okay. Good night.
Take it
Thank
easy.
you.